Welcome to Amintro Family, the podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Sammut. We hope you're enjoying the free online platform and community for family caregivers, be it through the Amintro Family app or amintrofamily.com, because it's all about helping those caring for their aging parents and relatives or friends and to connect, share experiences, and access valuable resources. Taylor Kaye is a broadcaster, do-it-yourself lifestyle expert, a mother of 3 daughters, and a caregiver advocate for her husband, Greg, who is nonverbal and paralyzed. And Taylor, look, you're extremely busy and always pulled in different directions, today included. Really appreciate your taking the time for us, Taylor.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I was jump-starting a car early this morning and then doing some TV. There were some technical problems, but we are here. I'm so excited that you've invited me on the podcast. I appreciate it. I actually had a YouTube how to jump-start a car. Because I remembered, but when it's your kid and they're calling you and they're not, I'm like, not safe now. And then I think about Greg. I'm like, Greg would have done that. I could have stayed in bed and got ready for stuff.
That's right.
I'm now caregiving for Greg.
That's right. And you're filling gaps, and you've been doing this now for a while since all of this got started, and we want to hear the story on that. So we'll add a part-time mechanic to your intro.
Yes, please.
Well,
please, part-time mechanic. That's it. Exactly. Not Uber driver. Yeah.
So Taylor, take us back to the beginning of your caregiving journey. You had no warm-up. You had no warning, no training. You didn't see this coming. Tell us what happened.
For sure. You know what? Greg and I would talk about stuff like, hey, if anything was ever to happen, what would we do? He was a very healthy man. And I say was because I still say when I talk to his doctors, he's a healthy man. And they'll say, no, Taylor, he was a healthy man. This is the new version of Greg because he's a different type of healthy. So it was in September 2022. I do TV and radio from my home. It's organized chaos, similar to this morning or whenever people are listening to this. And then I jumped on with Jeff. And Greg was coming down to assist me. He'd help with the kids, and I do TV via Zoom from the house. And when he came down the stairs, he was able-bodied, but he couldn't talk. He had something I didn't know at the time, but it was aphasia. So all he could say was one word, yeah, and that was it. And I knew something was up. Did I know it was a stroke at the time? I'm not sure. I think in my head I knew, but I also was compartmentalizing, thinking about, I got to get on TV. I got to get the kids to school. What the heck is going on with Greg? What is this? And at the same time, I had producers in my ears telling me, like you see on TV where they're like 10 seconds to show or 5 seconds. So they were giving me a countdown. And then Greg kept saying, yeah, yeah, yeah. Again, able to move his body at the time. And I think, my children are in therapy. I'm in therapy. The one will be in therapy for a while because I screamed, call 911 as the producer was telling me to go live on TV.
Okay. So, but was Greg trying to communicate that something was wrong?
He was trying to tell, he was just pointing to his throat and grabbing his throat, and he couldn't understand why all he could say was the word yeah. Now, when we got to the hospital and he walked, so the ambulance came.
And you're going on TV. You went on TV.
I went on TV. I don't know what I said. Honestly, I have no idea.
It was like a 3-minute thing, something like that?
3 minutes. So by the time, I've talked to a lot of therapists about it, I couldn't have done it. And they're like, when you're in shock, you don't know what's going on. And I was like, okay. And I compartmentalized. So I did whatever I had to do, ran onto the porch where Greg was at the time. And that's when things started. I could see a little bit of droop in his face. And I went, okay, this is a stroke. This is weird because he worked out. You knew him, when we worked together.
Yeah.
He worked out 5-6 days a week. He did yoga. He meditated. He did breathing exercises. I am the human trash can. I eat not healthy. If there's a Pepsi in the fridge at 7 in the morning, I'm like, that looks like a great idea. I might have that and some Oreos. He would have granola and yogurt. So I just tell people all the time, eat the cake. I don't eat the whole cake. But I knew when he had the droopy face, I'm like, okay, this is not good. So I did the TV segment. I don't know what I said. I can't even watch it back. And that being said, now when I go on to this specific station in Ottawa, it's PTSD. I get the shakes.
Really? So even just knowing the television station or talking to the same people, it takes you back to that moment.
3 years later, like, I have to get over it and I can't. Like, I'll start to shake before I get on. Like, so much so that I try not to book that station sometimes. Clients want it
Really?
but it's like, it honestly, I never thought of PTSD, but I'm like, when you talk to your therapist, like, it brings me back. Your brain kind of is rewired to go, oh, what's going to. So I'm working through that. And then, but back to Greg, you know, I'm working through that because I'm like, did I do the right thing? Well, yes, the ambulance came. He walked down to the ambulance. I asked them to take him to a stroke hospital. So there's specific hospitals in all different parts of our country and in North America. Like, there's the heart hospital, there's a cancer hospital, there is a stroke protocol hospital. But because Greg was still able-bodied, he couldn't speak, but he was conscious, they decided to take him to a regional hospital, which now we know was a mistake, because then 12 hours later of sitting in this regional hospital on a gurney, that's when he had the major stroke.
When you noticed something was wrong, like, did you have any prior experience with this sort of thing? How did you recognize that?
I have a kinesiology degree. My friends make fun of me because they're like, you're a DJ and you have it's a big word for phys ed. That's what I did. It was a phys ed degree, but
Yeah.
and I would teach first aid and CPR. I was an instructor trainer for years for the Red Cross and for the Heart and Stroke Foundation. So I knew the signs and symptoms. Aphasia, that when he had the no words and was just saying yeah, I thought it was weird. I didn't think stroke at the time, but when his face started to droop a bit on the one side, then I knew, and I went, oh God, we're having a stroke. But then in my head, I thought, okay, we get to it soon and he's conscious. This is great because we can work with in my head, I'm like, we can work with the speech. We can get the speech. He can walk. He can do everything still on his own. I usually talk for him anyway. So it's just, no.
Those 12 hours, though, in the hospital, so that was just 12 hours of sitting around. Like, you look back on it now and you say that was 12 hours of wasted time.
Wasted time. Wasted time. I remember calling, I have a very good friend, Kate, and I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? Do I just take him out and go to the stroke hospital? Because I knew he was having a stroke.
Yeah.
And he was texting me at the time. He could text, but his texts, even the words, I'm going to share this. I haven't shared this on any podcast. He was texting me, dream is over, life is over. And it was really hard as a spouse.
Greg was doing that.
And dream was spelled incorrectly, but I knew what he was spelling. So I could tell something's going on in his brain. Like, the words, the way I explain it, it's like someone having Scrabble, shaking up the letters and then going, okay, try and figure out a word. And that's where we are right now with Greg too. But he can't text or anything now. He can't do that.
So he wasn't purposely saying those things? That's just what was coming out of him?
That was coming out onto his text to me. He was texting and putting it in his notes to me. So he couldn't speak at all at that time. So even the word yeah was not coming out. And I kept going to the medical staff going, we got to do something. Like, where's the super drug that people give? There's something called TPA. And now I know it's not for everyone. There's certain hours, there's certain stipulations. And this specific drug will either it can, clear out blood clots. There's a whole bunch of things. I don't want to get into it. Doctors can get into it. But there's a certain timeline. And there's certain, like, if it's a hemorrhage, you can't use it. There's certain things. So it's, I don't know. I think it's kind of like Drano. That's what they give you this super drug to get everything out. And I've heard great stories about it. And then I've heard horror stories where people have had it and then had a major stroke the next day. No drug is perfect. We didn't get that. We did start blood thinners there, but I think it was too late. Greg had something called a dissected artery. So it's like your carotid artery on your neck. If you feel your neck and you'd feel for the pulse, that artery there just dissected. It opened up. And the only way that can happen is if you're in a car accident or a chiropractic move, or there's a percentage of people where it's just spontaneous. And Greg is part of that percentage of just spontaneity, which is not the one you want.
No, of course not. You don't see that coming. Who would?
No. And people that do have dissections, I've talked to other people, they're able-bodied and they're fine now. So I don't know what was missed, or it was the timing, or it was just the universe, with the stroke of lightning going, it's your time now, Greg. So, you can question all that. The medical professionals did what they could. They did whip us back and forth to hospitals 2 or 3 times. I did not like that. We were still at the tail end of COVID. So that was tough. People were burnt out. So
Yeah.
12
Yeah.
hours after sitting in the hospital, Greg did have a major stroke and went into the fetal position in front of me. And that is like a nightmare. I think
So
about
that
that.
happened while you were waiting at the hospital, 12 hours
Yes.
in.
Yes.
And that's
And
what fast tracked him in, I'm sure, to
to another hospital.
another
And
hospital.
and they put us in an ambulance, took us to the stroke protocol hospital. It's called St. Mike's in Toronto, but again, there's lots of people living across the country. There's so many different ones and
Yeah.
whatever in the US. And then when we got to that stroke protocol hospital, the neurologist did a scan and just said, "Sorry, can't do anything. He's done. Like, this is it." Like, and I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
But this is the hospital you wanted to go to initially.
Correct.
Why didn't that happen?
I don't know. I'll tell you a quick story. I'll digress a little bit. Months later, my uncle had a stroke. And I think you knew about this. My uncle did have a stroke
Right.
during Halloween. Greg was in a wheelchair at the house, nonverbal paralyzed. I dressed him up as Ted Lasso as because I'm that person. And my uncle had a stroke during Halloween and the ambulance came and I fought harder. And I get upset that I'm like, did I not fight hard for
Oh,
Greg?
but
But you can't
anybody
go back.
would.
But
Anybody would.
yeah, and I fought harder for my husband, for my uncle who was 76 at the time, and the ambulance was taking us to a regional hospital. I said, "He's having a stroke. I will put him in my car and take him myself." And they're like, "Ma'am, you're crazy." And I said, "You better take me to this hospital." I'm probably on training calls. That's for sure. They did take my uncle to the stroke protocol hospital. My uncle's now walking, talking, different type of stroke, but they got to him and it was like, that stroke hospital is almost like you're walking to a spaceship. It's incredible, all the amount of equipment they have. Where the other hospital, we were on a gurney in a hallway. That was it.
So if you hadn't advocated for your uncle as you did,
He'd be gone.
he might have had a different fate.
He would have had a different fate. He would have, yeah.
Here we are, we're revisiting all of this for the purpose of the podcast and for anybody listening to be able to go, okay, I'll know what to do if, or just to hear your journey and maybe look back at their own and to get some help. So here we are revisiting.
Yeah.
How much do you do this on your own? Let's say you're in the shower when you're clearing your head. I know that happens to me when I'm showering. I got to do this. I got to do this. All of a sudden I think more clearly. Or when you're going to bed, you get up in the middle of the night. How often do you revisit what you think should have happened, what you could have done better? You can't beat yourself up over that. Anybody would do what you did. But how often do you go back and replay everything in your mind?
It's hard. It's every day. I know.
Every
I don't
day.
want to cry. Like, I'll take the dogs for a walk. I'll replay parts of things that have happened because there's multiple things that have happened. Because when Greg went to that stroke hospital, then they whipped him back to the regional hospital because they couldn't do anything. And then the regional hospital said, like hours later, again, we're like now into hour 36 of his stroke. They're like, if we don't get your husband back to the stroke hospital, he's going to die. I'm like, we were already there. What is happening? Why are we going?
Right.
You should not be transporting anyone having a stroke. What is happening?
Yeah.
I replay that. There's like, I replay, like, again, it was COVID. I was like suctioning, like, when you go to the dentist and people suction your mouth for saliva, you do that for people that, like Greg couldn't release any of his saliva. So nurses would do that. However, one day he was choking and no one was around. So I was suctioning him myself, and I had another very good friend, Sarah, with me. And she's like, what the hell is going on? Like, why are you doing this? But no one was around. So I'm like, I got to do this or he's going to die. I've got to suction. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, but I replay those moments going, was that the right thing? And also I replay moments of, was it the right thing keeping him on life support and the ventilator, right? You have those discussions. I hope people will have those discussions with their spouses. Or I have an 18-year-old now. She's an adult. I've had that discussion with her because I'm like, something happens. What do you want me to do? And we've made that decision of what she wants to do because some people don't want to live like that. Some people do.
Yeah. All of a sudden, here you are and you're making these decisions.
By myself, too.
Yes.
It's hard, like 3 in the morning on the floor of a hospital. Doctors came in because they had to remove Greg's skull because the stroke, when you're a young person, strokes grow. Your brain expands because you're healthy still. So your brain will continue. When you're older, your brain is smaller and they may not have to remove the skull. So they had to remove Greg's, it's called a bone flap, in order for his brain to expand from the stroke, because it's like an explosion in your brain. Sorry, in your skull.
Yeah.
So I had it was almost like a joke. It's like a rabbi and a priest walk up to a DJ at a hospital. But it was like I was lying on the floor and a rabbi and a priest came up to me because they're like, "What are you?" And they're spiritual. I feel fortunate because I had no one to talk to. And there's a doctor and they're like, "Sign these papers. So here's the deal. Your husband could die in the surgery, or he could die after. He's not going to be the same person regardless. So what do you want to do?" And I had to make that decision with two strangers, two spiritual strangers who I don't know. And I'm like, I don't have who am I going to call at 3:30 in the morning? And I have 3 daughters at home. So I'm like, okay, whatever version of him wakes up, okay, let's accept that. And I didn't know what version.
What
So
about, what about, I mean, obviously you're considering what Greg would have wanted.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be selfish that way. But we'd talk okay, 6 months. We'd have these discussions. And I mean, they're morbid discussions to have. But before we were even married, I made us do a will because we had bought property and stuff together. I said, even if we're not together, my mom, Italian mother, right? Everybody has a will. She's like, so I had those discussions with Greg. So 6 months was the magic number, because everything starts to go downhill from there. Everything atrophies. I will even say after weeks, Greg's body was his legs were not the same. His muscles were not the same.
Yeah.
But we were at the 4-month mark. Now Greg wants, Greg sometimes would communicate. He'll pull a phone charger from the wall and then point to himself you should. And the way I'm accepting that is I should have unplugged him. And I'm like, but you're here for your kids. It's dark times sometimes, for sure.
Yeah. So 6 months in, all of this is a moving target. How is Greg now?
So right now he is nonverbal and paralyzed. He's in a chair. At one point they told us he would not be able to walk, talk, eat, hear, see. I listened back to those that audio from the doctor. And
it's recorded?
I recorded it. Of course I did.
You recorded it.
It's me. I'm like, everyone's being recorded right now.
And we're in radio, yeah.
We're in radio. I'm like, because I need to listen. Because I'm by myself and I'm like, what are you saying? I don't know what you're saying. And they say to bring a friend along or somebody. Anytime you're going to a doctor, when you're going through life moments like this, or if someone has cancer, get someone there to write stuff down. I had nobody. So I just I brought my phone and recorded. And everyone was fine with it. But it was like, wow, he's not going to be able to see, eat, hear. He'll have tubes all in him. What kind of life is this? But then I have this hope where I'm like, well, I hope he'll be okay. Maybe we'll be that miracle.
Right.
So
he's not a lot of those things.
He's not. I've got him eating now. He can eat pizza, which is important.
Wow. Yeah.
He took out the tubes. So he can eat now. He actually took out the tubes himself at the one hospital. And he couldn't communicate, but now I was working a lot, as you know, Jeff. I was working so much that I was giving him and the family 5 days a week of physio, 5 days a week of speech. So because there's this sweet spot where they say get as much rehab as you can in for the first maybe year, and then you can see. They say first 3 to 6 months. We did it for a year, and there was minor changes. Cognition was better. But he still can't walk, and he still can't really communicate. He'll try, and there'll be moments that he understands things. And he's got very, very good friends that he sees every Friday night, his boys' night from Man Cave. They come every night, and they're like, oh, Taylor, he understands stuff. But sometimes I feel like he's an Oscar performer. And the way I think, if you have a computer and there are 10 to 15 URLs open, you have so many different web pages open, that's the way Greg's brain is sometimes. Because I'll look at him and say something, and he's it's like a spinning wheel. And then I have to say something 2 or 3 times. Or sometimes it takes 2 hours for me to figure out what he's trying to say.
Yeah. So you are a mom to 3.
Yes.
You're caregiving for your husband all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Um, you're working. I mean, you all have to have income.
Yeah, and
Uh,
it's funny how people think that the government or there's this magic purse of money or a tree in the backyard. It is interesting when something like this happens because people are like, "Well, the government will take care of you. We've been paying in for the government." The government doesn't. If you're under the age of 65 and or certain things or there's certain criteria and I don't have to get into it, but like there's certain criteria for you to receive some type of money, but it's not going to be enough. It's
well,
never going to be enough.
just with that, you have to advocate for it.
Yeah.
You have to figure out the avenues in which to
Find
pursue all of that. That's on top of all of everything you've got to do for Greg, decision making,
Yeah.
paperwork, insurance.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
there's we didn't
you're
have
constantly spinning plates.
yeah. And there was no insurance. He had retired and early so that I could bump up my career. So I was freelance. So um I now have insurance for the girls and I, but there was nothing. So um that was when I look back, that was a mistake. And I did talk to him about that because he was retiring from a company. I'm like, we should be taking out other insurance. And people are like, oh, glasses and eyes, like, you can just pay for that. But by the time you calculate all that, no, take out like personal insurance, everybody.
Hmm.
Don't.
You
Now I
never
have it
know.
for and I will say, when Greg was in the hospital, when you're in a hospital, you're like, rehab's going to come. No, you need to get to a rehab hospital. And even getting to a rehab hospital because of his situation, because he was completely paralyzed on the left side, couldn't speak, they were writing him off. They were like, nope, nope, nope. And I had a great nurse at one of the hospitals. I know, and listen, I reached out to you, Jeff. Like, you guys all had I was reaching out to everybody I knew,
Mhm.
as you would advocate. But people are like, oh, she's in radio or TV. She'll have contacts. I'm like, well, I can get you Brad Pitt's assistant's number. Like, do you need Brad Pitt's assistant? I don't know if that's going to.
I've been meaning to talk to him, so
Okay.
let's put a pin in that for later when we get
We
off.
have the same birthday, so that's our connection. So, yeah, me, Brad Pitt, Christina Aguilera, and Stalin. I don't know if I'd bring Stalin into
Wow,
that birthday.
that's a dinner party.
That is a dinner party. But I was reaching out to so many people, and a nurse said to me, we're not going to, there's no rehab here at the hospital. You have to get him into this. There's a hospital called Bridgepoint. So I knew someone. We have a mutual friend, Steven Sabados, who had a neighbor who I met at a party. I'm like, this is where I'm reaching. Who worked at this hospital. And so I was like, all right, I'll message this person. They can just be like, who the hell is this?
Mhm.
And I'm like, can you tell me why my husband is not getting into Bridgepoint? Like, why are we not? Are they just writing us off? And that's what it was. They were just like, no, he should just go right to a long-term care home. I'm like,
Mm.
he needs to have the opportunity to have some type of rehab.
Yeah.
We had minimal, and again, rehab is different for everyone. So he lived at a rehab hospital, but he only got rehab like 3 times a week for 30 minutes. The rest of the time, he laid in his bed. So it would be me, like, getting him in his chair and lifting him up. I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Now
but
you're
I'm like,
doing that.
yeah, I didn't know what I was doing. But I'm like, all right, I have a kinesiology degree, even though I'm a DJ. I have to remember like some of these muscles. So, and then I got him surgery because with strokes, your feet or your hands get like clenched. You think about people like they get that clenched hand. You see people sometimes with cerebral palsy with that.
Mhm.
So his foot was really bad and he couldn't stand on it. It's always like turned in. So again, I reached out to a friend of a friend of a friend because there's a surgeon that does this. And he's like, there's a 2-year waiting list and then a 2-year to get to see him. And then a 2-year waiting list to get the surgery. And about a year ago, I got him that surgery. I advocated and found this doctor and was just literally on him nonstop.
How'd that work out?
It's good. He now has a flat foot so that he can stand. He needs assistance to stand. He can't stand on his own, but that will then improve his gait and possibly he can take 10 steps with parallel bars with 2 people holding him. That's pretty good.
I mean, think about 3 years ago.
He couldn't do it. But there's advocating and like every day there's something like when I got him the surgery, it was September, first day of school for the kids. The kids are excited. I'm like, I can't be there. I have to take Daddy at 5 a.m. And when I went to take Greg, again, advocating, I have all these numbers of just in case. I have a plan A, plan B, plan C. I had a bus to pick up Greg in the morning to take him to a hospital. And for some reason, the bus didn't show up. So I'm like, what am I going to do? I got to get him to surgery.
What did you do?
I have a guy in my phone called Wheelchair Guy that I met somewhere, and at another, hospital. I'm like, if I ever need you, can I call you? He's like, yeah, no problem. I call this guy at 5:30 in the morning. I'm like, we have to be there just after 6. Like, his surgery is happening, or this guy's got a 2-year waiting list. So I called Wheelchair Guy, and Wheelchair Guy said, I'm sick. And I said, how much? He's like, what? And I'm like, I felt like I was like Seth Rogen in a movie or something. I'm like, how much will it cost me? Like, give me a number. Everyone has a number to get out of bed. And he gave me a number, and I put it on my credit card.
Wow.
And we took him to the hospital. I won't tell you that number, but it took me a while to work it off.
Yeah.
And when we got Greg to the hospital, people were already in the operating room. So they're like, how are you going to get him on the gurney? And I literally pointed to 2 people in the room who are not professionals. I'm like, you and me, let's go. We're going to lift him on the gurney. And Greg was like moaning and stuff, and I'm stripping him down. But I'm like, if we don't do this, you're not going to get this surgery. And now he has the surgery, but you have to, that's...
Nothing's easy. Did you ever think about that? Why can't anything ever be easy?
The universe...
seriously.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, now if anyone needs a wheelchair guy in Toronto, I've got a guy. But I think when you're an advocate, you always have to think ahead. Like, you have to think something's going to go wrong.
Yeah. You got to plan for the worst.
Yeah.
And then
hope for the best.
If the best happens, great. But you got to plan for the worst. So you mentioned Steven Sabatos.
Yes.
And he is an unbelievable person. Everybody knows him as a designer and a personality on TV, what have you.
Yeah.
He's everything you think he would be. He's a wonderful, wonderful person, and someone that you've introduced me to. And one of these great people that if you have them on your team, you feel uplifted.
Yes.
I mean, you talk about the man cave that Greg has for him and his buddies on Friday nights. Steven Sabatos decorated that man cave, got that ready at the last minute, right? For him?
Yeah, because it looked like Dexter's place. It looked really awful. Steven does that. Steven is, I will say, I have very good friends now because I wasn't accepting help. Now I notice, it's because I was hiding a lot of stuff. So Steven is a very good friend. I call him my gusband, my gay husband, and he'll show up and be there for me. Like, he'll be outside doing gardening, and people are like, wait a second, why is there a major personality on Taylor Kaye's house helping her with garbage and stuff? But
he literally,
because I was drowning, and he's like, honey, you need to accept some help.
Yes.
And Sarah Bartok is another radio personality. I have very good friends. I have another girl, Kate, who I mentioned, Alexander. But it's also people that you're like, where the heck did these people come from? School parents that are showing up that, they've come to birthday parties maybe once or twice for the kids. And now one gentleman, his name's John, he sees Greg once a week. He goes in, has conversations, brings a burger, hangs out. This gentleman doesn't need to do that. He'll bring his kids. He knows all the residents. He knows all the staff. If something's going sideways.
So once you started saying yes to help, you just found that there were a lot of people out of nowhere that were coming and helping.
That were coming and helping. And then there was people that you thought would help, where I was calling and asking for help and drowning, and very, very important people in my life, and they're not there anymore. And that's okay. That maybe they can't deal with it.
Yeah, that happens. Right. When you get, I've had a little bit of adversity in my life, and when that's happened, you think, okay, so-and-so and so-and-so is going to be there for you, and then they're not, and you have to say that without judgment.
Yeah.
But then there's other people that step up and you go, wow, I cannot believe I didn't think I would rely on those people that much, but here we are.
I just would move forward. I know a lot of my friends and family members, they would say, they're like, oh, this certain person should be there, and this certain, I'm like, they can't. For whatever reason, maybe psychologically, they can't deal with it. I have family members that can't, they're very close to Greg or close in age. and they can't deal with that. And so I've just, I talk to them about different things. So if it's work colleagues for stuff, it's work, and they don't ask about Greg.
Well, maybe that's their way of helping, right?
Yes, exactly.
They can't help in the way you thought, but
Yeah.
they're going to help in this way. They're going to distract you,
Yeah.
or they can't talk about it, but they're going to make you a great meal.
Right.
There's going to be some other ways that they can help.
And
You
you
have
have
to
to
see that.
yeah, and you have to get over it, not dwell. So I think I'm good. I'm good that way. Yes, I think about the past with Greg and what was, what would be, and maybe I'm not going to say dwell, but I'll relive certain moments because that's your brain. But then I move ahead. I'm like, okay, what's on the agenda today? The kids have to go to soccer. I have to go to an event. Um, I will say being in the media is sometimes difficult because some people want to ask and some people don't want to, or people like are walking on eggshells. And I just say it right out. I go, don't walk around eggshells on me. I said, you can ask. He's, nonverbal paralyzed. I'm giving him the best life if I can. But everyone's going through some things. Someone's going through cancer. Someone's going through a nasty divorce. Nothing, we don't know what's going on in people's lives and how people can handle it. I was given this because I believe I'm strong and can handle it. And hopefully I can help people
You
advocate.
are, Taylor. You're one of the strongest people I know, honestly. And
I
you've always been there for me, like when I've needed stuff that
Thank you.
by comparison was meaningless.
No, it wasn't. No, your
Sure,
stuff.
it is. Look, the kind of help that you're getting from peers and friends and loved ones is totally deserved, and it is out of respect to you and Greg, because both of you are very lovely people, and I've gotten to know you both over the years. Have there been days, Taylor, because you get up every day and you go and do what you need to do, and sometimes you don't feel like doing it, but you do it anyway?
I have.
On the air, there are days I know that you've had bad days, and I go, I can't believe how good she sounds, or I can't believe, look at her, she's smiling on TV, and she's talking about real estate or talking about whatever it is that you're talking about on any given day, and I'm going, oh my God, I know she had a horrible day the other day,
Yeah,
but you wouldn't know it because she's a pro. Are there days though where,
I don't want to get out of bed.
yeah, you don't want to get out of
Yeah.
bed, you don't want to do anything, you want to have a me day? Can you have those days? Can you feel that way?
I can have me moments like 10 or 15 minutes. And I will say I had a rough day, and it's been twice where I've had good friends because they call in to check in on me,
Yeah.
which I'm lucky. Like Monica Schneer. I'm going to name drop Monica, who was supermodel, but she's like a super real estate guru now in the Collingwood area. But she knew I had a really rough weekend with Greg and with my daughter who had fainted at a church during a graduation. I'm like, come on, university.
Oh my
Like, how
God.
much can this family?
What was it? The heat? What was it?
It was the heat, and she didn't eat, and so like, I mean, it's like literally out of movie. She stood up and like smashed her head on the pew, and I'm like, ambulance came. The great thing is because Greg can't see out of his left eye, he didn't see anything happen. He was happy. He had no idea an ambulance was coming. He stayed to watch the rest of the graduation for my other daughter while
Yeah.
I was tending to my eldest while an ambulance came.
Oh my
So
goodness.
that next day I was in bed and I couldn't get out. I'm not I think it's happened twice in the last 3 years. And Monica called me and she just said, get out of bed. You get out of bed now. And I'm like, she's like, just put your feet on the ground. I'll start crying. I'm not going to. And that's
Yeah.
what I did. I'm like, I took off the covers. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get out of bed. What the hell? I'm not going to be in bed.
Yeah. How's friends, Monica included?
Yeah.
What about therapy? What's therapy done for
There's-
you and for the kids?
Therapy's been great. There's different types of therapy. Because now think about, so I have a grieving therapist because I'm grieving how Greg was and is, and there's specific
Sure.
therapists that you can get. I need therapy raising teens. I was already in therapy for that because teenage kids. And then juggling their schedules for therapy because they're going through, they're girls and they wanted their dad, or there's bullying happening at school. So I think therapy is important. My middle one needs, like, I've had to explain because sometimes kids don't want to do it. They don't want to do therapy. They're like, therapy. And I said, it's like a coach for your brain. So, and she's a soccer player. And I just said, sometimes you don't want to talk to mommy, talk to this and find the right coach. Sometimes I get it. Like, I've had breakups with therapists because I'm like, one therapist, I talked to, I said, can I have a new writer for my Netflix show? Because this episode, I need someone to write me off here. And
Yeah.
she's like, but Taylor, this is your real life. I'm like, oh God, you're fired. I can't. You don't get my sense of humor. You don't get my sense of humor. So but therapy is important. I go in and go out. And I will tell you, when I'm out of therapy, my friends know, and they'll say to me, when was your last therapy call? I'm like, oh, 2.5 months ago. They're like, you need one.
Really?
So I don't mind them calling me on it. Like, some
Yeah.
people might be like, oh,
You're
that's,
good like that. You're good like that, though. Like, as a friend of yours, and, very often we would not talk for a little while, maybe an email here, there, or something.
yeah,
And then I would get you on the air on a show I'm doing,
yeah,
kind of like what I'm doing now.
yeah,
And we'd be talking about something completely unrelated to your life and to your story. We'd be
yeah,
talking about Halloween,
yeah,
for 10 minutes. But, for the 2 minutes before we get on the air, I've always felt like all I'm going to say is, how are you doing?
yeah.
Everything okay? And just let you go, and you're going to say whatever you're going to say.
You're
And
good
I'm
that
just
way.
kind of, it's like an open invitation. Tell me what you like that day, or tell me nothing,
Yeah.
and
You're good that way, because even before we came on here, I'm like, oh my God, blah, 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 blah. Okay, now let's do this podcast. And then you're probably like, and then, the crew behind the scenes, can I say Paul and those guys, they like, everyone knows, like, I'll be like, blah, 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 verbal diarrhea of what's going on. I'm okay. Okay, let's go. Because everyone's going through stuff. I had a neighbor come the other day, and I shouldn't say neighbor, someone in the neighborhood. And I was getting into my car, and she was walking her dogs. She goes, Taylor Kaye, this is where you live? And I'm like, oh yeah, hi. And then she just said, she started breaking down crying. She goes, I follow you on social. I haven't told anyone yet, but my husband's going through stage 4 cancer,
yeah,
specific cancer. I won't say which one, just, and she's like, and I follow you on social, and you're just so strong, and I'm going to take pieces of that. And I'm like, I'm not, it's not put on. That's who I am. I do it for myself, and I get up every day saying, you're going to be strong. You're going to do this.
yeah,
I want to show up for my kids, because
yeah,
I do have friends that are going through stuff, and they've lost everything, lost houses, lost, like, when their spouses have died, they've lost everything. And I'm like, I can't, and I will not let that happen.
Good for you. The
And it's
role
hard.
of, sure it is, the role of mom. Your kids were younger 3 years ago, uh, teenagers.
Yeah.
How did you walk that fine line of, I'm going to mother, and I'm going to protect them, and I'm going to make sure they're okay, but they also have to see the reality of the situation? How did you walk that fine line?
It's hard because they didn't want to see Greg, right? Because
Really?
that's not their dad.
They didn't want
Yep.
to see him like
They
that.
No, they did not want
Call
to.
me when he's better.
Yep. And I would take them. The one was scared, like, still had COVID crazies, and couldn't get into an elevator. So when Greg at one point was on the 14th floor of a hospital, she wouldn't get on an elevator. We would walk 14 flights. And then
Mm.
at one point, I'm like, okay, I'm sorry.
Well, mask up
And
and go into an elevator then, if you have to.
yeah,
Yeah.
you could mask up, but she was claustrophobic. So
Mm.
then we got him into a special home, and that's scary because everyone is a grandma and grandpa age, not a young
Yeah.
individual. But now we're at the point, because I just take them. I made Sundays. My one girlfriend makes fun of me. I call it Sunday Sundays, and we bring Sundays to Greg and a few people, and the kids have Sundays, and now the kids are going on their own. If I have to work, they do Sundays, and then they have special days. Greg comes home often. I did try having him home full time for a couple weeks, and I think I told you that it almost broke me. And I
Yeah.
did have very good friends going, you've got to work.
Yeah.
So how, and I think about it like, if you have kids and a babysitter doesn't show up and you've got to go to work, you're like, imagine you have 3 kids and a husband that's in a bed and has to get up, and someone calls in sick, but I still have to do TV and radio, get the kids to school. It was impossible. I couldn't do it.
You're being pulled in several different directions physically.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just can't be in 2, 3 places at once.
So, but it's hard for the kids, but I've trained them. And also, like, nothing changed here, which is good and it's bad. We're that house on the street. Everyone comes. And I will say, Monica and Steven and a bunch of people and Sarah, my very, very good friends, are like, you need to shut this down. You can't be that house on the street anymore.
Mm.
But because everyone, it's like, It's like everybody loves Raymond, everybody loves Taylor. The house is like a revolving door. People can come in, but it was good for me mentally because nothing changed. It was good for the kids, but does it drive me crazy sometimes? Sure.
Sure, but the people that are coming into the house, are they less takers and more givers as the time has gone on? They're getting older. Your kids are getting older. Their friends are getting older.
It's a mixture. It's a mixture. But for the kids, it normalized Greg being in a chair. So Greg would be home at the time too. I'd bring him home, from 2 to 10 at night or something, like 5 days a week, 6 days a week. So we're doing homework. We're running around for soccer. Kids are coming. Parents were driving my kids around so I could stay home with Greg. So he saw the chaos, and it's like nothing had changed for him. I'm like, look, everything's still the same. You're just in a wheelchair. And same with the kids. They're like, oh, here's our dad. Here's Greg. He's just in a wheelchair, but he's having pizza with us. So I tried to normalize it that way. It's not.
Taylor, I'll ask you this on the way out.
Yeah.
And thanks again for all of your time here. Very generous to me and everybody listening right now. How do you feel we best make caregivers feel seen?
By giving them opportunities like this, for sure. I think also, and I mean, this is a great opportunity for sure for me to share, to talk about caregivers. I think caregivers, I wish the government would do more for caregivers in Canada, because there's, and maybe that's something that I'm going to have to fight later on for people. There are tons of organizations, but I think caregivers have to take care of themselves. You have to rely on people, and I might be going off topic, but that's how you're going to be seen. I show people that I'm not saying, oh, you can do it all and you can fly. You can't. You can't. It's a mess.
Yeah.
I have like a third cousin that comes and watches my kids so that I can go and do a travel episode. Like, that's how deep I go. I don't go to my first cousin or second. I have a third cousin and her aunt who's 80. And also I don't need babysitters in my house. I need bouncers. But I think right? I don't need a nanny anymore. The kids are teens. I think for caregivers to be seen, you have to ask for help. And you also, I think the government and other organizations, we need help, because a lot of us are drowning and a lot of us hide it well. There's a lot, I'm smiling a lot, but I'm crying a lot. If you ever see me walking the dogs and I'm in the East End in Toronto, know that that's an hour and a half of my crying time. I put on my music, and then I will say to caregivers, set a timer. It's a mind shift. I set a timer, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, scream, cry, do whatever. That's your time. Now you got to move on, because you cannot dwell in whatever's going on, whatever has happened in your life, the cancer, the stroke, a heart attack. So
it's good, though, that you're giving yourself that time. You're saying, all right, this is what I need. If it's 90 minutes, it's walking the dog. You're recognizing what you need.
Yeah.
And it's helping you. And you're right. You have to help yourself, and you have to let people help you as well. Taylor Kaye, you really are an inspiration, and Greg and your daughters are not only lucky to have you, but your friends are as well, and everyone who listened to this podcast episode as well. Taylor, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it, pal.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
And I love throwing people out of my house, so if you need me to be a bouncer.
Well, you have that timer. I think you set a clock for 90 minutes and you get them out. I do that.
That's my timer. If somebody comes over to my house, I set a timer at about 90 minutes on the microwave. And when it's done, I don't care if they're in the middle of eating dessert. I'll slap it out of their hands and I'll give them their jacket and say, okay, we're done. Because really, after 90 minutes, we're kind of sick of each other. That's enough.
It's time. Exactly.
You've overstayed your welcome. Just get out. So if you need a bouncer, I'm there for you, Taylor.
Thank you.
All right, there's Taylor Kaye. I'm Jeff Sammut. This has been another episode of Amintro Family, the podcast, which you can hear first on the Amintro Family app, and then wherever you listen to podcasts. We've got a new episode dropping every 2 weeks. Check out amintrofamily.com, and a reminder, we want to hear your stories on the forum, and we can share them here as well on Amintro Family, the podcast.